So for our Creative Hamlet project, we're going to hold a mock trial for the class, and we'll be reenacting an appellate court or court of appeals. Appellate courts don't retry cases for new evidence, but they review law used in previous courts to ensure the trial was done fairly. And today the class will be justices to rule on Horatio's appeal. Normally there's no witnesses that are able to speak, but there should be, like in this activity, it's in accordance with our decree of Elsinore, or like our constitution, which is on the back of your statement of facts, to allow Horatio to do so. And anytime during our trial, you can ask questions because you're like the judges.
I'm going to start with the reading of the Statement of Facts. In the small kingdom of Elsinore, located in Denmark, death has plagued the area. It all started with the death of King Hamlet, which was later found to be a murder carried out by his own brother Claudius. Claudius assumed the throne, and just 2 months later married his deceased brother's wife, Gertrude. King Hamlet also left behind a son named Hamlet, who was not only devastated by his father's death, but also peeved by his mother's and uncle's hurried marriage. Many claimed Hamlet had gone mad with his alleged sightings of his father's ghost and the slaying of Polonius, the Lord Chamberlain of Claudius' court, as well as the father of Hamlet's true love, Ophelia. The death of her father brought about madness within Ophelia herself, leading to her being found dead in the brook shortly later. These deaths brought Laertes, the son of Polonius and brother of Ophelia, into a fit of rage when he returned from his voyage. It has been claimed that he and the king had devised a plan to kill Hamlet for these offenses by challenging him to a duel in which Laertes would have sharpened his sword laced with poison. If this were to fail, Claudius had poisoned a cup of wine as well for Hamlet to drink from upon his victory in the fight. As Hamlet began winning, Claudius offered him the poisoned drink. However, Gertrude ended up taking it instead, and later fell to her death. During the fighting, Hamlet and Laertes happened to exchange swords, and Laertes was slain by his own weapon. After all of these deaths, Hamlet was said to have forced Claudius to drink the poisoned wine following stabbing him with the poisoned sword. Hamlet, wounded from Laertes' sword, was then affected by the poison, and he too died. In accordance with Mandate 5, the first person to witness the deaths must appear in court to give his testimony. Horatio may come up at this time to testify.
May it please the court, my name is Horatio. Today I'm saddened for the reason why I'm here. I never thought anything like this was possible, especially in Elsinore. I may have lost my best friend, but everyone in Elsinore has suffered great loss. We lost our king and queen, we lost our friends, and we lost our family. I am morbidly honored to be the one here today because I was instructed to carry on the true story of these events. A previous court ruled that King Claudius was a lesser innocence of these deaths, which is senseless. The whole reason that these events even took place was because he maliciously murdered our King Hamlet, his brother. The tragic death was devastating to Hamlet, and after he was never the same. When his father appeared to him in the spirit one night, a scene I witnessed with my own eyes, there was an even more drastic change in Hamlet. There was a look of revenge in his eyes. He wanted to kill King Claudius, to make him pay for the murder of his father. But he didn't intend for the accompanied deaths. For this reason, I am appealing.
May it please the court, my name is Regan. I represent Hamlet, who is the appellant in this court. Let me set the scene for you. You're young and impressionable, merely a child, still figuring out your life and becoming who you're destined to be, much like many of us are now. There are pressures washed up upon you like waves in the river. There's a never-ending stream of decisions, and you're riding upon a brook. The lucky ones can allow the water to take them wherever it pleases, while others have to fight the waves. Now imagine you're riding along the river, and out of nowhere, a large and devastating storm approaches. Your father has died. You soon realize it's not just a storm, but a tsunami, as it was your uncle, and the husband of your mother. Who is responsible for this death? Here lies the water, good. Here stands the man, good. If the man go to this water and drown himself, it is, will he nil he goes, mark ye that. But if the water come to him and drown him, he drowns not himself. Some would have drowned, others stay afloat. I'm hesitant to say my client was one of the lucky ones. And now I'll do it. And so I goes to heaven, and so am I revenged. That would be scanned. A villain kills my father, and for that I, his sole son, do the same villain send to heaven. These are the words my client spoke, as he witnessed Claudius praying. These are the contemplations that could have led to the deaths of 2 rather than 9, one a victim, the other a murderer. If my client's conscience was not as pure, he would have saved 7 lives, including his own. But alas, there's something that drove Hamlet not to kill King Claudius in that moment. My client may have been said to be mad, but in the end, his supposed madness is not powerful enough to cloud his judgment. Only when Hamlet had witnessed firsthand an injustice was when he was truthfully able to do what was right, which was the case with what happened to Polonius, who, may I add, Hamlet thought was his uncle. Now that the morals of my client have been tucked away, I would like to address the issue of whether or not King Claudius should have taken the throne following the death of Hamlet's father to begin with. In the decree of Elsinore, it is explicitly stated that if the king shall perish, the next in line to the throne shall be his firstborn son. Claudius, being King Hamlet's brother, wrongfully took the throne and therefore committed the murder of an innocent victim without a valid motive, if there can even be a valid motive for the murder of an innocent human being. He has slain a fellow man, and not just 1, but 2. And not just 2 men, but his own brother, the king of Elsinore, as well as his wife, the queen. My client simply attempted to right the wrongdoings of this man and put an end to the corruption that had plagued his kingdom and his subjects. Laertes can even be quoted saying, the king's to blame," just before he died after the duel concocted by Claudius himself. Overall, I would just like to leave you with this. The initial death, and quite a big one I may say, as it was not only the king of Elsinore, but a brother, a husband, and the father of Hamlet, was a murder committed by the wrongful king, Claudius. The remaining 8, including the death of my heroic client, was simply a reaction to the madness that this man possessed, a madness that drove him to kill. I reserve the remainder of my time for my rebuttal.
May it please the court, my name is Lexi and I am representing the respondent in this case, King Claudius. It is evident that the question is no longer to be or not to be, but rather a question of who is to blame for 9 tragic deaths. When we truly consider the series of events, my client, King Claudius, holds less responsibility and guiltiness on his conscience than Hamlet. Claudius is only responsible for 2 deaths, King Hamlet and Queen Gertrude. He loved Gertrude dearly and took the responsibility of caring for her when King Hamlet passed. In his last days, it was observed and recorded that he fell to his knees and began praying to the heavens for his forgiveness. Try what repentance can, what can it not? Yet what can it when one cannot repent? O wretched state, O bosom black as death, O lime soul that's struggling to be free, art more engaged? Help, angels, make essay, bow stubborn knees, and heart with strings of steel. Be soft as sinews of the newborn babe. As you can see, he knew he was undeserving of any mercy, but he begged for a child for it. Though killing one's own brother may be an act of madness, a truly mad man doesn't acknowledge his wrongdoing and fall to his knees repenting for sin. So what does define a madman? When we consider Hamlet's role in these events, we have ourselves an exemplary definition. He murdered a whole family, first killing Polonius, which killed Ophelia's soul and later resulted in her taking her own life, and finishing with the execution of Laertes. He is responsible for the deaths of his fellow friends, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, and lastly, he killed my client. In total, that's 6 lives. This death streak all started with Hamlet's absurd accusations of seeing his father appear to him as a ghost. Whatever Hamlet imagined the ghost telling him sent him over the edge. This, in conjunction with his obsession of death, sent Hamlet into a deep rage of madness. This is the exact reason Claudius took the throne. Hamlet was in no means ready for the responsibilities that came with being king. Claudius saw how much of a threat Hamlet was to himself and to the kingdom. His immaturity can be directly observed with his contemplation of suicide with his words, "For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of despised love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns the patient merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his purpose make with a bear by him." He hid from the world and refused to accept any help from anyone. It was also apparent that he wasn't fit for the throne by the way he treated Ophelia. First he told her to get thee to a nunnery, but then moments later directs sexual innuendos toward her. That's a fair thought to lie between a maid's legs. These mind games directly attributed to the sweet Ophelia's death. A young man of such games and deception holds no authority to be king, and such madness cannot go unpunished. Today you are the ones holding the authority. You hold the power to decide who will be remembered as the villain associated with these catastrophic events. You will decide the everlasting fate and reputation for one individual for centuries to come. But first, please consider the most important pieces of this matter. Who is the person that is most at fault, and who is most deserving of your pardon? My client, King Claudius, simply got caught up in his greed for power, but haven't we all in some shape or form? Granting forgiveness to someone who took the life of another person isn't easy, but it would be ludicrous to grant forgiveness to someone who killed 6 lives. Hamlet. Madness like this wasn't just triggered by an event. It was developed over time alongside an obsession of death until the right time came for him to strike. As the previous court already determined, Hamlet is most to blame for these catastrophic events.
Hamlet may have been too young to claim the throne in the eyes of the kingdom. I will give you that. However, I would argue that inexperience is much better than having the murderer of your past king rule your kingdom. One of the main reasons that supported the claim of immaturity and inexperience was the grief and sadness my client possessed following the murder of his father. Some may consider this madness. However, it is clear that Hamlet was truly hurt by the sudden deaths of his father, a reaction to the actions of Claudius. It was previously stated that this type of madness wasn't triggered by an event, and it was developed over time. I would just like to point out that following the death of a loved one, several psychological reactions can occur. I'm not a psychiatrist, but anyone could safely conclude that my client may have been experiencing the effects of post-traumatic stress. You may be thinking that I just helped support my opponent's claim. Nevertheless, I would strongly argue that a mental illness, which can be defined as an order or disorder that affects your mood, thinking, and behavior, and madness are not one and the same. The effects of grieving are not morally comparable to the actions induced by insanity, and therefore it is not right of us to assume that my client is mad simply because of the crippling emotions he had been feeling during the short period after his father had passed.
So with that, we ask you to write on your sticky note who you think is of less guilty. Yes.
Less guilty.
Yeah.
Of less
That's
guilty. Okay, and it looks like this court has dissented the past court's ruling and Hamlet is left guilty.
Great job.